Have you ever looked around and thought, this doesn't feel real anymore? Not just in the way dreams feel strange or memories feel distant, but in the way reality itself seems manufactured, filtered, edited, almost like someone somewhere is trying to sell you a version of the world that never really existed. Maybe you felt it while scrolling through perfectly edited lives on social media. Maybe it crept in while watching the news, unsure whether the emotion was real or scripted. Maybe you felt it when you walked through a city where everything looked like a copy of something else. A theme park version of culture, identity, or even love. If you've ever had that creeping feeling that the world is starting to imitate itself, you're not alone. You've simply begun to see through what the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard called simulacra and simulation. Baudrillard's work is difficult, it's abstract. It dances on the edge of philosophy, media theory, and cultural criticism. But beneath all the complexity is one very simple idea. We are no longer living in reality. We are living inside a simulation, made not of code or machines, but of symbols, representations, signs, copies of copies of copies. Reality used to be something we could touch. We lived it, felt it. But now, we mostly consume it through screens. And over time, the copy has become more powerful than the real thing. So powerful that we've forgotten what the original even looked like. We live in an age of hyperreality. An age where the sign, the image, the idea, the performance doesn't point to any reality beneath it. It just exists on its own, detached. It's not that we don't have reality anymore. It's that we have so much simulated reality that the real gets buried underneath it all. Baudrillard didn't invent this idea out of nowhere. He saw the world changing around him. He saw the rise of advertising, the explosion of media, the way brands became identities, and how people started performing themselves instead of just being. He asked one question: what happens when the representation of something becomes more important than the thing itself? To answer that, he explained how signs evolve through 4 stages. And once you understand these stages, you will start seeing them everywhere. In the first stage, the sign is a faithful reflection of reality, a simple mirror. When you look at a painting of a flower and it closely resembles a real flower, it's still rooted in something real. It points to something that exists independently of it. In the second stage, the sign starts to distort reality. It's still connected to the truth, but it begins to reshape it. Think of propaganda or advertising. It shows you the product, but it exaggerates the joy. It still points to something real, but it alters the way you feel about it. It bends truth for effect. In the third stage, the sign pretends to represent reality, but it no longer has any real connection to it. It's a mask, a lie. It claims to show you something real, but there's nothing underneath. It's an illusion pretending to be the truth. And finally, in the fourth stage, the sign becomes pure simulation. It's not even trying to lie anymore. It's just floating on its own, detached from all reference, all meaning. It becomes hyperreality. In this stage, the representation doesn't hide the truth. It replaces it. It becomes the truth, even though it's completely fabricated. This is where we are now. We watch romantic comedies and model our relationships after them, then get frustrated when reality doesn't match. We scroll through photos of people who aren't happy, but who know how to perform happiness. We listen to songs about rebellion, released by billion-dollar corporations. Everything is a simulation of something else. We don't even know what real food tastes like anymore, because the idea of food, what it looks like on Instagram, how it's packaged, how it's branded, has become more important than the actual experience of eating. We no longer care if the coffee is good as long as it has the right logo on the cup. We don't care if the news is accurate as long as it matches our emotional expectations. We don't even care if the experience is genuine as long as it looks good in a photo. That's what Baudrillard meant by simulation. It's not a conspiracy. It's not some computer-generated illusion. It's a slow cultural shift where appearance replaces substance, and we all start playing along, sometimes without even realizing it. Now, it's tempting to think this is just a modern problem, that it started with social media. But Baudrillard wrote this in the early 1980s, long before smartphones, long before TikTok, long before influencers became reality's new architects. Even then, he could see where things were going. Theme parks that mimic cities. Cities that mimic theme parks. Reality shows that aren't real. Politicians who act like actors. Actors who act like politicians. Everything blurred. Everything is staged. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We like it this way. We prefer the simulation. It's safer, cleaner, more entertaining. Reality is messy. It's unpredictable. It hurts. But simulation? Simulation is comfortable. It gives us the illusion of life without the weight of actually living. But there's a cost. When we surround ourselves with copies of life, we forget what life actually is. When we replace conversation with likes, intimacy with captions, knowledge with headlines, we lose something. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, without a sound. And then one day, you wake up and realize that the world has become a museum of itself. And you're one of the exhibits. This isn't just Baudrillard's idea. Other philosophers and thinkers saw it coming too. Guy Debord talked about the society of the spectacle, where everything becomes performance and consumption. Marshall McLuhan warned us that the medium will become more important than the message. Even Plato, thousands of years ago, wrote about people trapped in a cave, mistaking shadows for reality. Baudrillard just gave that idea a modern twist. Now, instead of shadows on the wall, we have screens in our hands. But the result is the same. We start mistaking images for truth, signs for substance, spectacle for life. So what do you do with that knowledge? Do you disconnect? Move to the mountains, delete your apps and grow your own food. You could, but that's not the point. Baudrillard didn't write simulacra and simulation to make you paranoid or hopeless. He wasn't saying run away. He was saying wake up, become aware, learn to see through the layers. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing when the news is designed to keep you watching instead of informing. You start recognizing when someone is performing emotion instead of expressing it. You stop chasing the image of success and start looking for something deeper, something real. Even if it's messy, even if it's flawed, even if it doesn't get likes. Because maybe, just maybe, the point of life isn't to look like you're living, it's to actually live. Baudrillard himself wasn't entirely sure we could escape simulation. He saw the modern world as a kind of feedback loop, a system so saturated with signs and symbols that even rebellion becomes commodified. But maybe the real rebellion today isn't to disconnect. Maybe it's to stay awake, to scroll with eyes that see through illusion, to speak honestly in a world of performance, to touch the real, even if it's buried under layers of simulation. Because there's still something underneath, something raw, something human. It's fragile, it's fleeting, but it's there. And if you're paying attention, you can still feel it. Not everything is fake, not everything is theatre. But if we want to preserve the real, we have to start recognizing the false. Baudrillard said that simulation isn't about pretending, it's about the collapse of the boundary between truth and fiction. And that collapse is almost complete, but not quite. Because you're still here, you're still listening, and you still have a choice to see, a choice to feel, a choice to search for what's real, not in what is presented, but in what is lived. So next time you're caught in the endless scroll or dazzled by another perfect image, ask yourself, is this life or just the idea of life? And when you look in the mirror, really look. Not for the version you've learned to perform, but for the one who's quietly watching it all unfold. Still waiting, still wondering, still trying to remember what it means to be real.